I try to watch half an NBA game every night in the treadmill.
I love it.
So that's my goal. So I get on the treadmill and I watch half an NBA game, usually like an East Coast game. So I watch Brooklyn, and they're playing really well.
Really well.
And this is where I tend to be in my career. I do football heavy. Super Bowl ends. I go skiing or I go to Mexico, come back, and then I'm totally into the NBA.
Yep.
NFL draft, NFL free agency, but I'm an NBA fan. And I kind of block it off. I do Labor Day to February 10th is NFL.
See, it's so funny. I'm this, just real quick before you get to your question. I know people kind of perceive me as an NBA guy because I'm like the LeBron guy, but I'm the exact same way. So I might watch a little bit more because of the coast I'm on, and I have net season tickets. So I go to some games and do that. But as far as the media I consume, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't listen to any NBA podcasts right now. I'm not reading it like I am. It's to me, this is it. Football season is football season with a few big time NBA games mixed in. And then the moment I get back from vacation, it is nothing but hoops for the next 4 months, and then go on another vacation, and then we're in the NFL again. And this is just like the cycle that I'm on. But go ahead. So
one of the reasons I think there are a lot of people in our profession, especially NBA people, that they watch this early season stuff. And I always kind of think, timeout. I mean, 2 nights ago, the Celtics gave up 150 points to the Thunder. The Thunder's
without their best player, without SGA.
Yeah. So it's not even. Some teams are rested. Some are exhausted. Who'd you play the night before? It's like the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody that plays them the next week.
That's unbelievable. 0-14.
Or 2-14. So in the NBA, if you play the Celtics the night before and they're arm wrestling you and playing defense, the next night, you're probably not going to play well after. So I watched the Brooklyn Nets, and here's my takeaway on them. They're the Phoenix Suns Steve Nash team. They are totally built for the regular season. You come in, light rest. The guys come in after shoot around. They get 30 minutes of film putting their shoes on. They watch them. And then you got to face Kyrie and Durant and Simmons. Hey, it's a hard matchup. You put them in a series, and I can go at Kyrie 6 times defensively where he won't play. Tough. I can put Simmons on the foul line in any big spot. That Brooklyn is tough with little prep. Infinitely beatable with equal rest.
I agree with that. I think that's a smart take. But they also, I will give them credit. Listen, since Kyrie came back, they're 18-3. They lost 1 game in December. I got 3 potential issues with Brooklyn. The first one is Kyrie's, you ever been to like a construction site and they have that little thing that the days without an incident, and every day it ticks up. It's like 46, 47. We are approaching the most Kyrie days without an incident we've had in about 6 years, which means that sumbitch might be going back to 0 any moment now. Like there's a chance that thing is getting reset. So everyone's like, "Oh, Kyrie's on his best behavior." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, it's been 6 weeks and that's good, but I'm not booking that as the norm." Okay, that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Second thing is this. And this is a good thing and a bad thing for them. Durant is playing some from an offensive perspective.
Yeah.
Some of the best basketball in league history right now. So I put a thing on the TV show yesterday where NBA.com will break the court down into zones, like not just quadrants, but like there's like 18 of them as far as where you take your shots from, right? And red, if the color beneath you is red, it means you're below average. If it's the color of the court, it means you are average. And if it's green, it means you're above average. On those 18 zones, Kevin Durant had 15 green, 2 beige, and 1 red. The one that was red, he has taken 2 shots from that area. I think he'll probably make the next one, and it'll turn beige or green. And another one, he'd only taken 5 shots. So he is, from every scoring zone on the court, well above average, every single one. And I was like, wait, is this true for all the great players? Nope. I look, Steph, it's like half of them. He has his spots. LeBron, it's like a third of them, but he's killing you at the rim. Luka, it's Durant is great everywhere, and he is taking tough shots. So the good thing is he's an amazing player. The bad thing is They need him to continue a level of offensive efficiency that would make prime Jordan blush as far as what he's doing in the mid-range and all of that. And the last thing is what you said, which is the Ben Simmons in the playoffs part of this, no one is talking about and no one is thinking about, but it is a major concern. I want to say one other NBA thing to you, because Giannis in his last 7 is averaging 40. And the other night at 55. And the Bucks are a game out of first place.
Yeah.
So here is why, in my opinion, Giannis and Luka have shown beyond a shadow of a doubt they are the 2 best players in the league. Giannis 1, Luka 2. Every other great player in this league, either this year or in the last few years, if their second best guy isn't there, the team struggles to win half its games. LeBron lost AD. Team can't win half its games. Steph, a couple years ago, didn't have Clay. They missed the playoffs. Jokic, last year, didn't have Jamal Murray. They're the 6th seed. Durant, this year, Kyrie was going, when he was going on a sabbatical, there's whatever you want to call it, they're dead in the water. Luka, last year, didn't have a second best player. Whole second half of the season playoff run. It's like, okay, I'll just take us to the conference finals. Giannis hasn't had Middleton all year. He's played 7 games. 7 games he played, didn't play well because he's still hurt. And they're a game out of first. That is, those 2 guys are at a different level. Our teams can be contenders even without our second best guy. And if you give me our second best guy, we'll probably win the whole damn thing. Everyone else, no matter how great they are, and I threw LeBron in there too, because he's still unbelievable, they need their full cast of characters, not to win any games, but to contend. The Bucks can contend based on the power of Giannis alone, and I think the Mavs are showing they can do that with Luka too.
Very good. What do you make?
A year less than you, buddy. It's really
no. What do you make of the offensive explosion in the last 2 weeks? I contend, I would say, every season has what they call the dog days, and I think after Christmas, there's a 3-week lull when you're still experimenting with some defensive rotations. You're not near the trading deadline, so you're not showing off people yet. You're giving certain players rest. And so we're in the dog days are not the end of the regular season because seeding really matters. It's not right up to the trading deadline because you're trying to show off certain people to move them. These are actually, even though the season only starts in October, the dog days are like the day after Christmas until like January 5th to 10th, and that nobody's playing defense right now.
Okay, so I think that's part of it. So I'm really glad you asked me this. I'm really glad. And I have a much probably longer answer than you anticipated, but I think you'll like this. So the NBA right now, it's 113 points per game is the league average. It's the highest it's been in a very long time. Some context though. Other than the last couple years, in the last 50, the highest scoring year was 1985. When everyone's like, oh my God, defense was so hard and they punched you in the face. It was 111 per game in 1985. The only time it was pre-1985 higher than this was the early 60s. This is a sidebar, but I think you'll like this. 1962, the NBA averaged 118 points per game. That was 118 in 1962. So what else happened in 1962? Well, Wilt averaged 50 a game. Oscar averaged a triple-double. Your guy, Dragonfly Jones, part of the volume, pointed this out. Elgin Baylor averaged 38 and 18, but he only played 48 games. Colin, he only played 48 games because Elgin got called up as an Army reservist and could only play for the Lakers when he was on weekend leave, and he took coach flights and then dropped 38 a night on folks and then had a 61-point finals game. Okay, so why do I bring all that up? 62, when all these crazy records were set, different game. They're playing in breakneck pace, and no one can make shots. So it's just shoot, miss, you get a rebound, shoot, miss, get a rebound. Okay, so throw those records out. 1985. Why would that be so high scoring? Wasn't three-point line. It had been invented, but people barely shot it. Well, the ABA folded. The NBA hadn't fully expanded, and you had massive talent. There's too many good players. Too many good players. Then what happens? Late 80s, NBA expands. Early 90s, it expands again. And all of a sudden, NBA Finals games are 85, 83. And you look around and you watch the Bulls Jazz, and it's like, that's Jeff Foster and Jeff Hornacek, and I don't want to just say white guys here, but there's a lot, and like it's not. But people don't want to say that because so much of the NBA is wrapped in like the Jordan legacy. They're like, no, the 90s were great. No, they weren't. So now we go here. 3-point line, huge part to do with it. Undeniable. People are taking a bazillion threes. Here's the other thing. Right now, if someone were to say the three best players in the NBA are Giannis, Luka, Jokic. Well, that's interesting. Global. So now we're getting guys from Greece via Nigeria, Slovenia, and Serbia. Giannis the other night, he crossed up Kristaps and got to the rim. I'm like, okay, that's a 7'4" Latvian trying to guard a 7-foot Nigerian Greek kid out on the perimeter. I'm not saying this because it helps my LeBron GOAT argument. I'm saying it because it's obvious the players are better.
Way better.
The players are way better, and you have the entire world to choose from. And so, yeah, the defense isn't as physical, but the game is smarter. That people understand it better. They understand where the efficient shots are. The three-point shot has proliferated. We're about to bring over a 7'1" French alien who's shooting step back 1-foot threes. Like, guys, it's just better. And it's not, to me, a coincidence that you go back to the mid-'80s, there was a scoring explosion. It's like you have, oh my God, you have Magic, you have Larry, the ABA is folded, you have Jordan come in, you have all these great players come in, and there were every team, like all the great teams had like 4 Hall of Famers. And so that's my answer. So yes, I agree with you. I think what I think is going to be interesting, because your point is the scoring will go down a bit, once teams care more. Well, right now it's at 113. And in 1985 it was at 111. So if it goes down just a little bit, we're going to be scoring at the same rate as they did in the mid-'80s. Yeah. And that's going to be hard for people to reconcile. But that's what I think is happening. I also think, here's the other thing, because there have been a ton of 50-point games, but they've all been by stars. It would be concerning to me, concerning is the wrong word, but more noteworthy to me, if it was, I don't know if you remember this guy, Tony Delk. He played at Kentucky a long time ago. He once had a 50-point NBA game. And he's kind of known as like the worst player to score 50. That sounds shitty, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If a lot of average guys were dropping 50, I'd be like, oh, these numbers don't mean as much. But it's like, oh, Embiid dropped 50 and Booker and Donovan Mitchell dropped 70s a lot. I'm not going to lie. That was a lot, but it was also, he had 58 at the end of regulation and then went off. Giannis, it's the best players in the league dropping 50. So that kind of makes sense to me.